Dad kicked me out a month before my 18th birthday. Good luck, loser, he said. I calmly left, but a week after, when he sold my car, he got a call from my lawyer, and then. The night my dad threw me out, he didn't hesitate. No dramatic pause, no reconsideration. Just stood in the doorway with his arms folded, blocking the light from the house, and smiled. Good luck, loser, he said. Then he closed the door, as if I had never existed. I stood there for a second, gripping the strap of my backpack, my breath visible in the cold air. I had expected a fight. Maybe one last screaming match, maybe my mom throwing herself between us, begging him to stop. Instead, it had been almost disgustingly easy for him to push me out. Like taking out the garbage. Mom had tried, though. I heard her scream before I left, her voice breaking as she told him I had nowhere to go, that I was still a child. But my dad wasn't the type to listen once he'd made up his mind. And he'd decided a long time ago that I wasn't his problem anymore. I didn't know where to go. I had a few friends I could call, but their parents would ask questions. Maybe I could sleep at a bus stop or find a 24-hour diner and sit there all night. But then I thought of my grandparents. So I walked. 5 miles in the freezing cold. It took over an hour, and by the time I got to their house, my hands were numb. I knocked, half hoping they wouldn't wake up so I wouldn't have to explain. But after a few moments, my grandfather opened the door, squinting at me as if he wasn't sure I was real. Let me guess, your old man finally snapped. I nodded. He sighed, stepped aside, and let me in. No questions. No judgment. Just warmth. That was the difference between him and my father. My dad saw me as an inconvenience. My grandfather saw me as family. Life with them was easy. My grandma made sure I ate, my grandpa gave me advice, and for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. But a week later, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was my cousin Noah. Dude, he said, laughing. Did you hear what happened to your car? My stomach dropped. What do you mean, what happened to my car? Dad sold it, he said. Didn't he tell you? Of course he hadn't. My dad had sold my car. The one I had worked 2 summers for, sweating through long shifts at a mechanic's shop, just to be able to afford it. And the worst part? My sister was driving it. Technically, her boyfriend had bought it from my dad, but she was the one showing it off, posting selfies in the driver's seat, acting like it had always been hers. I should have been furious, but I already knew how this was going to go. She was 19, told everyone she was pregnant, and when I challenged her, she'd twist the story. She always did. But I wasn't going to let it go. I couldn't. The next morning, I met with my grandfather's lawyer. 2 days later, my dad got a phone call. And that's when the real fun began. I wasn't there when my dad got the call from my lawyer, but I heard about it later from my cousin Noah, who was there when it happened. Apparently, my dad picked up the phone, sounding all smug as usual, probably expecting a routine call. Then the lawyer hit him with it, selling my car without my consent was illegal. Since it was in my name, he had no right to get rid of it. If he didn't return the money or fix the situation, he would be sued. Noah told me that my father went ballistic. At first he tried to act like it wasn't a big deal. Then, when he realized the lawyer wasn't budging, he switched tactics. He started yelling about how I owed him, and how I should thank him for raising me for free all these years. Typical. An hour later, my sister called me in tears. How could you do this to me? She sobbed. You know I need this car for my baby. I sat on my grandparents' couch, holding the phone away from my ear. You don't even show up, I said. And last week you were drinking at a party. She gasped as if I had just slapped her. That was sparkling cider. I didn't even bother to argue. She hung up on me. I figured my dad would suck it up and pay the money back. He hated losing, but he hated lawsuits even more. What I didn't expect was what happened next. That night, Noah sent me a text message. Noah, dude. Your dad's throwing a party. Me, what? Noah, he's calling it a good riddance party. There's literally a cake with your name on it. I stared down at my phone thinking he was joking. But then he sent a picture. And there it was, a full-size sheet cake with "Bye bye, Henry" written in big blue frosting. My dad had invited a bunch of people over to celebrate the fact that I was gone. There were balloons. There were decorations. Someone even made a damn banner. I showed it to my grandpa. He looked at the picture, then nodded to himself. "All right," he said. "Let's have some fun with this." I wasn't sure what he meant, but 10 minutes later we were in his truck, driving to my dad's house. My grandfather used to be a prankster, and apparently he still had a few tricks up his sleeve. We parked down the street, just out of sight, and watched. My dad's backyard was packed, music playing, people drinking, laughing, having a good time. Right in the middle was the cake, sitting on a table next to the grill. Then my grandfather pulled something out of the back seat. A huge box of fireworks. "Ever heard of an airstrike?" he asked, grinning. I burst out laughing. "You're serious?" "Your old man wants a celebration," he said, lighting the first fuse. "Let's make it one to remember." We positioned the fireworks to go off over the fence, making sure they'd explode right over the party. Not dangerous, just loud. The first one went off and boom. People screamed. Drinks spilled. Someone dropped a plate of hamburgers. My dad, who was halfway through a beer, choked and started coughing. Then 3 more went off in quick succession. Crack. Boom. Bang. Panic. Chaos. My sister screamed, flailing about as if under attack. Someone dove into a bush. Noah, who had been secretly filming, caught the best part: the cake went flying. A firecracker must have hit just close enough to shake the table, because the whole thing flipped over. Blue frosting splattered everywhere. My dad was standing too close and got most of it. His whole front was covered in icing. And then, to top it off, the sprinklers in the backyard went on. At that point we were laughing so hard we could barely breathe. My dad was stomping around yelling at everyone to calm the hell down, while covered in blue ice, drenched in sprinkler water, and looking like an idiot. My sister was screaming about her hair getting ash in it, and half the guests had already left. Noah texted me later, still dying over the video. "Bro, your dad looks like a smurf." I leaned back in my seat and watched the chaos from a safe distance. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. After the airstrike, on my father's party, I thought things would calm down. I was wrong. That video Noah made? It went viral. He had sent it to a few friends, who sent it to a few more, and somehow, within 48 hours, it ended up on TikTok, Twitter, and even a few meme sites. Man throws good riddance party for son, instantly regrets it. The internet loved it. My dad, drenched in blue icing, flailing under the sprinklers, yelling at his guests, it was perfect. At first I didn't think he knew. Then, 2 days later, my sister called me again. This time she wasn't crying. She was angry. "Take that video down!" she screamed. "Dad's losing his mind. His boss saw it, and now everyone at work is making fun of him." I blinked. "Wait. His boss? Oh my God, yes!" she snapped. "Some guy in his office found it and showed it to everyone. Someone even printed out a screenshot and taped it to the break room fridge." I muted the phone so she wouldn't hear me laugh. Apparently, my dad had been in a meeting when one of his coworkers sent him the video. Imagine sitting at your desk, all serious, when suddenly your phone pings with a clip of you covered in cake and sprinkler water, screaming like an idiot. It got so bad that when he walked into the office, people whistled like fireworks were going off and then pretended to duck. The final blow? His boss called him into a meeting and asked if he needed fire safety training. At that point, my dad was done. He showed up at my grandparents' house that night. I was in the kitchen when I heard a car door slam, then banging on the front door. My grandfather sighed, put down his newspaper, and got up to answer it. Well, he said as he opened the door. If it isn't the Smurf himself. My dad was still drunk. No joke. The icing had stained his skin, and even after scrubbing, there was a faint tint all over his arms and neck. You think this is funny? My dad growled. My grandfather shrugged. A little. I want to talk to Henry. He snapped. I stepped into the doorway and crossed my arms. What do you want? You're going to fix this, he said. You're going to call your little friend and get that video taken down. I raised an eyebrow. Noah didn't post it. Someone else did. It's the internet, dude. It's not going anywhere. He glared at me, breathing heavily. You think this is funny? You humiliated me. I shrugged. You threw a party to celebrate kicking me out. What did you expect? For the first time, my dad looked stunned. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then, as if his brain short-circuited, he threw out the most desperate argument ever. I raised you. My grandfather snorted. Barely. My dad turned bright red. You know what? Fine. You're cut off. Don't expect a dime from me ever again. I looked around. Pretty sure I've been living without your help for a while now. He clenched his fists as if to punch something. Then, without another word, he turned and stormed back to his car. I watched him go and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Because for the first time, he wasn't in control. After my dad's breakdown at my grandparents' house, I thought maybe just maybe he'd back off. Accept his loss and move on. Nope. The man was obsessed with repairing his reputation. A week after the video went viral, Noah sent me another text. Noah, bro, you're not going to believe this. Try me. Noah, your dad is doing damage control. He wrote a Facebook post calling you a troubled youth and saying he kicked you out for your own good. I almost dropped my phone. I went straight to his Facebook, and there it was, a long, dramatic post about how he was a concerned father who tried everything, but was forced to make a tough love decision. But the best part? He'd posted a GoFundMe link. GoFundMe. He was literally trying to raise money to kick me out. The description said something about how he had been unfairly slandered and needed help to recover from defamation and property damage. My dad was out here trying to get random strangers to pay him because he got hit with a pie. I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. But it gets even better. Because guess who found the post and started commenting? My mom. You see, even though my mom had never been able to stop my dad from kicking me out, she wasn't on his side. And now? Now she was furious. She tore him apart in the comments. You didn't kick him out to help him. You did it because you're selfish and didn't want the responsibility anymore. You stole his car and sold it to support your drinking habit. Tell me again how you're the victim. You threw a good riddance party for your own child and now you want sympathy? And then other people joined in. Some of my dad's old coworkers, neighbors, even people who knew him in high school. Apparently, my dad had burned a lot of bridges over the years, and now everyone saw their chance. When I checked again, the GoFundMe had negative donations. How could that be? Because people were reporting it for fraud, and GoFundMe was actually refunding the money people had donated. My dad deleted the post within hours. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse for him, my mom filed for full custody of my little brother. Yes. He wasn't 18 yet, which meant my mom had a legal reason to take him. And since my dad's little internet stunt had blown up in his face, the court wasn't exactly going to side with him. When my dad found out, he lost. But this time there was nothing he could do about it. The world had finally seen him for what he was. At this point, my dad's life was turning into a disaster movie, and honestly, I just sat back with my popcorn. The failed GoFundMe scam? Embarrassing. My mom's custody battle? Devastating. But the thing that finally broke him? The news. Yes. The news. I woke up one morning to a dozen texts from Noah. Noah, dude. Check the local news website. Noah, Your dad made the headlines. Noah, I shot out of bed and pulled up the page. And there it was. An entire article titled, Father Throws Good Riddance Party After Kicking Out Son Immediately Regrets It. Oh, dear God. I clicked on it, heart pounding. It detailed everything: the viral video, the Facebook meltdown, the GoFundMe scam. They even mentioned the custody battle. And the best part? The article interviewed my dad's boss, who said, "Yeah, we've been laughing at him around the office for weeks." I actually had to put my phone down and just breathe for a second. Because that was beautiful. But it wasn't over. An hour later, my dad called. I stared at the screen. He hadn't called me once since he kicked me out. Now he suddenly needed to talk? I answered. "Hello? Are you happy now?" He exploded. "You ruined my life." I just sat there. "I didn't write the article." "You didn't have to," he roared. "This is your fault. Do you have any idea what this is doing to me?" I shrugged. "Kind of sounds like a you problem." He got quiet. Then suddenly his voice fell. "Come back home." I almost laughed. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," he said, forcing his voice to sound calm. "Come back home. We'll work this out together." I couldn't believe it. The man who kicked me out a month before my 18th birthday was begging me to come back. "Why would I do that?" I asked. "Because," he snapped, "if you come home, I can tell people the video was a joke. A prank we planned together. I can clean up this mess, and you can stop living with these old fossils." He really screwed up on that last part. My grandfather, who was sitting across from me, raised an eyebrow. "Put it on speaker," he whispered. I did. My grandpa leaned in. "Hey, Smuff man. You know Henry isn't stupid, right?" Silence. Then my dad growled. "Stay out of this, old man." My grandfather grinned. "Or what? You gonna throw another party? Maybe bring TV cameras this time?" Click. My dad hung up. We both burst out laughing. At that point, it was official. He was done. At this point, my dad had two options: lay low and try to rebuild his reputation, or go into full meltdown mode. Guess which one he chose. 2 days after the call, I got another text from Noah. "Noah bro, your dad lost it." Noah, he went to your mom's work. Noah, and security had to escort him out. I almost dropped my phone. My mom worked at a law firm. She wasn't a lawyer, but she handled case files and scheduling. A professional job. A job where throwing a temper tantrum in the lobby was a bad idea. I called her right away. "What happened?" She sighed. "Your father showed up screaming about how I turned his kids against him. He wanted me to repair the damage and tell the judge to drop the custody case. And I told him to leave before I called security." I sat down and rubbed my temples. "Jesus. Oh, and before he left," she added, "he tried to tell my boss that I was an unfit mother." I choked. "What?" She laughed. "Yeah. My boss looked him right in the eye and said, 'Sir, I've been reading the news. I think we both know who the problem is here.'" I gasped. No way. No way. I almost felt sorry for my father. Almost. But he wasn't done yet. Because that night he showed up at my grandparents' house. Again. I was in the kitchen when I heard a loud bang 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 at the door. My grandfather, who was flipping through a crossword puzzle, sighed. "Oh boy. Here we go." He opened the door. My dad was standing there, looking disheveled. His hair was messy, his face was red, and he had a folder in his hand. "I'm here to make a deal," he said. I stood next to my grandfather and crossed my arms. "A deal?" He pushed the folder toward me. "A legal agreement," he said. "I had a friend draw it up. You sign it, and I agree to give up custody of your brother without a fight." I frowned. "What's the catch?" He scowled. The catch is that you delete the video, clear my name, and tell everyone I was a good father who just wanted to help you grow up. I stared at him. Then I started to laugh. He glared. What's so funny? You think I control the internet? I said. You think I can just snap my fingers and erase history? He clenched his jaw. This is your last chance, Henry. Sign the paper or I'll drag your mother through the courts until she's bankrupt. And that's when my grandfather, who had been completely silent, suddenly started to laugh. Not just a laugh. A deep, belly-shaking laugh. My dad snapped. What's so funny? My grandfather wiped his eyes, still grinning. You really don't know, do you? Know what? My grandfather stepped aside and gestured toward the driveway. I turned my head and felt my stomach drop. Because there, parked right in front of our house, was a police car. And getting out of it? An officer with a warrant. My grandfather patted my father on the shoulder. We figured you'd try something desperate. So we had a little talk with the cops. Turns out you're selling a car you don't own? He smiled. It's called Grand Theft Auto. My dad's face went completely pale. Henry, my grandfather said, turning to me, would you like to press charges? I looked at my dad. The man who had thrown me away like garbage. The man who had humiliated me, stolen from me, and tried to manipulate me. I took a slow breath. And then I made my choice. My father stood frozen on the porch, staring at the policeman walking toward him as if he had just seen a ghost. Henry, my grandfather repeated, do you want to press charges? I looked at my father, the man who had kicked me out, stolen my car, and thrown a party to celebrate getting rid of me. The man who had tried to scam people online, humiliated my mother at work, and bullied me into cleaning up his mess. He opened his mouth as if to beg, but I held up my hand. No. I won't press charges. He let out a breath, relief washing over his face. Then I smiled. But she will. And that's when my mother stepped outside. She had been waiting inside, listening. Now she calmly stepped forward, took the officer's paperwork, and signed her name. This car was in my name, too, she said, handing it back. And I'd like to press charges. My father's relief vanished. You can't do that, he stammered. I was the one who paid for the car. The cop raised an eyebrow. Oh? Because according to the registration and receipts, Henry paid for it with his own money. You had no legal claim to it. My dad turned red. That's ridiculous. She's just doing this to get back at me. The cop shrugged. Then you can explain that in court. And just like that, he was done. The officer calmly cuffed him, nothing dramatic, no struggle, just a simple, "Turn around, sir," before leading him to the police car. The last thing he did was glare at me, eyes full of hate. You're making a mistake, Henry. I just smiled. No, I'm making one. The door closed. The car pulled away. And for the first time since my dad threw me out, I felt free. The aftermath. My dad ended up with a criminal record for Grand Theft Auto. Since he had no money for a lawyer, thanks to his failed GoFundMe, he lost the case. My mom got full custody of my little brother. He doesn't have to put up with my dad's crap anymore. My sister? Turns out she wasn't really pregnant. She admitted she made it up for attention after the guy she was dating dumped her. Noah? He's still my favorite cousin. He sends me memes about my dad at least once a week. As for me? I stayed with my grandparents for a while, saved up and got my own place. I never went back. And my dad? Last I heard, he moved out of state. No job. No friends. No one to bail him out? The man who threw me a good riddance party? Turns out he was the one nobody wanted.